In this Hubnut video, it's time for Ellie to receive some TLC. We're going to do something approaching a service. We're going to change the engine oil and filter. We're going to grease some of the greasy bits that need doing. I may clean the air filter if I'm feeling, particularly flush. Check the valve clearances, new spark plugs, and away we go. I've got some fancy iridium spark plugs. They're claimed to give better performance. We'll see if that's the case. They should last longer. Now I've got the engine tuned and it's running better and not fouling plugs up like it was. Hopefully those expensive plugs will have some sort of benefit. So I think stage one is probably going to be to get the oil draining while it's nice and hot and start removing the front bodywork to make life easier, because after all, removing bodywork on a 2CV really is quite simple. It's a bit windy today. I'm not sure I want this bonnet floating around over my head, so I'll just take it off. It says, there we go, off comes the bonnet. That makes life a lot easier. Front wings require a bit more work. We've got 3 bolts holding these sail panels on, 4 bolts holding these on. Disconnect a few wires. Access is suddenly brilliant. Now I must admit, this service is well overdue. That's bad on my behalf. That's my fault. I think it was September 2019 was her last service, which is yeah, that's like 18 months ago. In fairness, she hasn't done a vast amount of mileage since then, because she spent 5 months entirely off the road, and she was also losing oil because we had yet another oil cooler problem. So the oil was getting refreshed on a fairly frequent basis, I would say. So I don't think there was too much damage done. But nonetheless, these little engines rev hard. The oil is the coolant as well as the lubricant. So it is a good idea, really, to change the oil a bit more regularly than I am. So oil's draining at the moment. We'll lose a bit more oil when we take the rocker covers off, which is why we're taking the front wings off, the downside of a boxer engine. Yeah, they're not quite as accessible as they would be on any other car. I've got some other issues as well. There's a torn rubber, or actually both the rubbers look a bit iffy, on the gear lever-gator here, so I may have to go and look in my parts stash and see if I've got any replacement rubbers in there. Just creating a bit of a buzz in the gear shift. But yeah, I can see what the problem is there. That's not going to be too difficult to overcome. That should be that panel off. There we go. Put the nuts in the magnetic parts tray because I'm trying to get better at that sort of thing. And we can move on to getting the front wings off. So I need to disconnect the indicator wiring there. And that's now free, apart from the cardboard tube. So find my ratchet, which I think I've probably left under here. We changed the 21mm sump plug for an 19mm here. Now you can also use the starting handle to undo these bolts. Citroen in their wisdom did that one, so that's quite handy. So you can take the wings off at the side of the road if you fancy. So the only nut I really need to take off completely is the one on this back edge of the wing. That one comes off. The others can just be loosened. Really do have an extension on that. Hold on, just so I can get down there like that. That's loose. And now we've got the difficult job of threading the wing off. If you've got standard bumpers, recommend draping something over the back of the bumper just to protect the wing as you're removing it, because the bumper sits a bit closer to the body and has a very sharp edge. Shouldn't have such difficulties here. So I've just got to ease it off this cardboard hose here. That can be a challenge sometimes they come flying out, sometimes not. It's a job where you need about 16 hands. But there we go, come on hose. There we go. Ooh, and the wing is off. Now suddenly access is amazing. So we'll repeat that trick over here. This one holds the horn in place as well. So we just loosen these because these slide out. I may even give Ellie a wash if she's really lucky, but it is quite cold today. That's loose, and this one's coming off. There we go. Again, we'll just make sure the wiring is disconnected. There we go. That wire comes with the wing. So does that one. We should be good to go. And there we go, that one's come off even better. I'll just walk off with a huge lump of my car. So with that done, we now get access to the rockers here. So I just need something to catch the oil, because there will be oil droppage from the rocker covers as I remove them. Right, I have the replacement oil filter. Found it eventually, slightly battered box. I buy these in a job lot of 10 at a time. Let's just see if it, oh yeah, I can turn it by hand. So I'm going to, first of all, actually I'm just going to do the re-anneal the copper washer. Bit of sludge and detritus on the plug, but nothing too bad. Right, let's hope I can actually anneal it. Let's hope there's enough gas left in my little blower here. Right, let's see if we can anneal this washer then. We get it red hot first of all. So we want it absolutely glowing. There we go. Starting to go nice and orange. And then we dunk. There we go, managed that without dying. And that should have annealed our washer. This is not the mug I use for drinking, so there was a good squelchy sound as that went in. That's now nice and cool. Hopefully that'll crush up again when we refit it. So I'm now going to refit the sump plug. So what the annealing does is it softens it again, because you need this to crush to help ensure a good seal. So that goes on. You can replace them every time, but I don't think they come with a replacement, and some filters do. These do not. So frankly, if you can just heat it and cool it down again, you might as well do that. We do that up. Wipe away a little bit of excess oil there. There we go. Move that over because I'll need that under the filter. I wonder where I've left the ratchet now. Then we can do it up. As with so much on a 2CV, don't do your sump plugs up too tight. It's an aluminium engine, or alloy engine, certainly. And too tight is definitely not good at all. You just want it tight enough, really. I think that's probably there. I remember I had an Austin Westminster many years ago, an A90, lovely old thing. And the sump plug on that, I had to get a trolley jack under my ratchet and operate it to use the weight of the car to snap it off. I was convinced the whole thing was just going to strip out the sump. It didn't, but it was probably a close thing. That was a lovely car. Right, back to the oil filter replacement. So come around here. I have got a proper Perflux spanner, but hopefully you can see. But that's hand tight. That's really what you want. You don't want your oil filters too tight. You may notice a pattern developing here, but especially when you're working on cars with aluminium engines, you definitely want stuff tight enough, not too tight. Go. Let the oil filter drain as well. I'll just leave that on the end now. That can do away. Have a smear of, might as well use the old engine oil because that's what I've got here on the rubber seal. You always want to make sure that's lubricated. I don't pre-film my filters. I could try, but it's at a 90-degree angle. Most of the oil is just going to fall out again. So what I might do is, once the engine's refilled with oil, is disconnect the coil and just crank it over a few times on the starter motor. Starter motors turn at something like 200, 300 RPM. They're really not very fast, so you will build up the oil pressure. Do that by hand as well, but you won't overdo it. So you won't have the bearings going really quickly with no oil, because that's considered undesirable by most people, and rightly so. There we go. Now it's time to start on the rocker covers. I'll go and grab my 12mm spanner, put this oil filter on my pile. My growing collection of oil filters I don't know what to do with because the tip won't take them. Very, very irritating. I'll find the 12mm spanner in my box. Leave you staring at an engine. I mean, that's what you come to Hubnut for, isn't it? You don't come to Hubnut for professionalism. Thank goodness. There we go. Probably do with a smaller catch cam, but I don't think I've really got anything suitable. So we'll undo this 12mm nut. I'm going to add that to the collection. I did have some fancy Burton gaskets on here, but I didn't really get on with them all that well. So I went back to just standard ones. But as you can see, it drops oil absolutely everywhere. You don't get this on the Invercar. The Invercar has also a flat twin engine, but it's a bit better in this regard because it has tubes to take the oil back to the engine. But there's nothing wrong with having a bit of oil, engine oil, over your chassis, I don't think. This is actually a galvanized chassis, but look how dirty it is. It's all black, mostly because of that oil leak she had. I can see grease coming out of the drive shaft seals. I actually did a grease not all that long ago. It's a good idea to grease your cars, but now we're in. I'll just bring you out of the stand for a moment. So here we are. These are the three studs for the rocker, the cylinder heads. So the cylinder heads are torqued using these. I may check those because she's done a fair few miles since this engine went together. I'll just quickly nip around them with a torque wrench, and then we'll adjust the rockers. The rockers have a sort of a weird bespoke, to actually attach them to the cylinder head, a weird bespoke fastener, but these have obviously been modified by my friend Ken, and he's fitted Allen bolts, which are a lot easier. You need a special tool to get the cylinder heads off otherwise, or to get the rockers off anyway. But all we're interested in is the lock nuts down here. So that nut, you loosen the nut, then you use your screwdriver to adjust the valve clearance, because you definitely want a bit of clearance going on. So there's a bit of clearance. That one's got some weight on it at the moment, I think. So we will check those, and you're checking this clearance here, which you can just see wiggling there. So that's what we're checking. So the way I tend to do it is if that one, that's the inlet, if that inlet's in, I'll go and measure the inlet on the other side. When the exhaust's in, do it on the other side, and vice versa. We start with the starting handle. Annoyingly, Ellie isn't starting very well on the handle at the moment, but I may try later just to see if she will. So insert starting handle thusly, and if I bring you round, so we shall see which of these valves gets compressed first. So we rotate the engine. Oh, we're in gear. We've got the handbrake on. No, right, let's sort that out, because at the moment I'm trying to turn the entire car. So now we turn. Oh, that's a bit easier, and we can see the push rod just coming back in on the inlet, so that did have tension on it. So the exhaust should go next. So as the exhaust goes in, there it goes. I'm going to use Uncle Ken's top technique here. If you put a 10mm spanner on there, it exaggerates the movement, so you can tell when you're definitely all the way down. I'd say that's about it. Now we shall go and check this valve clearance on the other side. We'll just quickly talk on valve clearances. Originally the recommendation for these later M28 engines, as they're known, was 0.15mm for the inlet and 0.2 for the exhaust. Because of unleaded fuel, a number of people found it beneficial to run a slightly bigger gap. So we're actually going to do 0.2 on the inlet and 0.25 on the exhaust. So I find the 20 and the 5 there. That will give me my 0.25 of a mil. And we'll go and slide that in, shall we? And we'll see how it looks. Let's bring you in closer. Hopefully you can see what's going on. So we're checking this gap here, and that is, I'd say that's actually a bit loose, wouldn't you? So I think we'll tweak that up just a little. going to move the catch can away so the feeler gauges don't land in it. So we hold the tension here on the screwdriver. We undo the lock nut. Oh, blimey, who did these last? There we go. And now I can adjust the tension. So if I turn it that far, that's much more of a tight sliding fit, which is kind of what you want, really. So we'll lock that off there. It was sounding a little tappy when I ran it yesterday. I'm going to turn the engine again to the inlet, or maybe I'll turn it until this exhaust goes in and we'll stick on the exhausts for now. So keep an eye on that one. We'll wait for that to start going in. In it goes. Where's my 10mm for that exaggeration effect? Makes it easier to see the movement. And then you see, I would say that's probably about where we need to be. Let's go and check the other side now, and vice versa. You do this for inlet and the exhausts. Let's check those. Again, that's more than a sliding fit, isn't it? But the change, the reason people go for a larger gap is driven by modern fuels. Unleaded fuel tends to burn a bit hotter, so it's a good idea to run slightly looser valve clearances, but not that loose. You want it so it's, yeah, so that's a nice sliding fit there. It's difficult because the adjusters don't always turn well on the nuts, so yeah, I'd say that's about where we need to be. I shall repeat on the inlets. So this is me just checking the final one. That's a nice tight sliding fit. So that's us done on those. The inlet on the other side was actually quite tight, so I'm glad I've done that. Should improve starting, generally help her run a bit better. So we can put the rocker covers back on. I'm not going to replace the gaskets, these are fairly recent, so we'll just put those back on again. Oh, I was going to torque up the nuts, wasn't I? I was going to grab my torque wrench. Well, it's all gone a bit hub nut really, because it would have been better to do this before adjusting the valve clearances, but we'll see if any of them move. No. So, but good that we're doing it anyway. And on the other side, no. So I think I got away with that one. But yeah, ideally you'd re-torque the heads before doing that. But just before people comment, we will undo this and we shall take the tension off. There's an entire 18 pound-foot of torque on those cylinder head studs. Really not very much at all. There we go, take the tension off. That can go back in the drawer, and now we can refit the cylinder head, the rocker covers. Now you have to be so careful with these. I kind of hate doing these. You have to be quite gentle or they just round off. Or not round off, they actually crush. These will crush in and impact the valve gear, which most people consider undesirable. So I tend to do it kind of finger tight, and then we'll do another turn and a half, I think. That should be good. Now, I'm not very precious about the oil. Might remove that for safety. I put in this engine. This is 1540 Master Lube Pro Diesel, so it's got good detergents in it. But I don't know if it's semi-synth or mineral or what, but it's gloopy and clean, and that's the main thing. I actually pull the dipstick out so the engine can breathe a bit easier. And hopefully this oil will go in a bit quicker. Oh yes, there we go, it makes a difference. So about 3.5 litres of oil, I think, after you've done an oil filter change. So we'll get a good amount in. We'll get a nice high reading on the dipstick, and we'll turn the engine over on the starter, because we've got the new oil filter, but also both rocker covers are currently empty of oil. I'm no good at guessing how much has just been put into that engine, so we shall have a dip of the stick. And we are on the dipstick. albeit we're not up to minimum yet. So we should do some more of the same. Right, where are we now? We have reached the bottom mark of the dipstick. In fact, we're halfway up it. So we'll give the engine a turn at that. All I have to do is remove one of the coil wires and she won't start. So make sure we've got everything secure. I might actually take that off the engine. And I'm going to turn it until the oil light goes out. There we go. And it's back on and off and on. Now's a good time to check for leaks. Looks like we've possibly got one there. I might have to nip this one up a bit more. Wipe that away. Oh, with this side, that's dry, that's good. Check we've got no oil leak from the filter. No, that looks good. Just a bit of excess from where it's squeezed on. And now if we check the dipstick again, we should find the level has dropped somewhat. Yes, we're now below the minimum mark. So that's why it's a good idea, I'm going to put that back on before I forget, to run the engine without the ignition. Just to slowly crank it up to oil pressure. Because if it was, oh, wait for the wind to drop. If it was doing that while the engine was 1,000 revs or more, it would not be very good for the engine. There you go. Well, take a reading at that, I think. I always put the cap on once I've finished filling, never leave that, because if you leave that oil cap off, oil will go everywhere. And I mean absolutely everywhere. Yeah, that's something I've never actually done in all my years of 2CVing. I've never forgotten to put the oil cap on. And I take a certain amount of pride in that, because I know an awful lot of people have done exactly that. And yes, it just makes such a mess. Sprays oil everywhere. And when 2CVs were new, they had a sort of a mat, insulation mat on the bonnet, so you get all that full of oil. Right, that's our level achieved, so we'll just give her a quick run. Just make sure she's happy. Come on then, girl. Oh, she's a bit cold apparently. Sounds good to me. No sign of the oil light. A bit of a. So next we shall do plugs while we've got everything off, and the access is good. So I was running these NGK B8 HS. Too cold a plug, and they've gone white on top, which I think confirms it. I fitted those in desperation, not these particular ones, I bought loads of them, when I did the Croatia trip, because I was having real problems with the engine, choking plugs and pinking. So that's a cooler plug. Too cool, I would say, by the look of that, because, you know, we haven't been doing any thrashing. The Iridium plugs have a very, very tiny electrode, which you won't be able to see at all because this camera's got a terrible macro mode. But these are a 7 rating, so we'll see how these do. Just screw that one gently in by finger, and then once we're sure it's in, with a socket, and I'll find the ratchet. Oh, he says a trusty Halford ratchet here, and we'll do them sort of tightish, so about there. I don't use any levering force on the plugs because you don't want them too tight. I mean, you want them tight enough, you don't want them coming out, but again, aluminium heads, very easy to strip the thread. You have to be very, very careful. And we'll come over here, take out this one, see if it looks the same. This job's much easier with the wings off. You can do spark plugs with the wings on, but it's bit of a faff. As you can see, access is so much better when you don't have a headlight in the way, when you don't have the wings on. And yeah, same story, that's white as well. Too cold a plug for this application. I think the experts recommend going with a 7 rated plug on NGK scale if you're doing a lot of hard driving. 6 was the original recommendation. But yeah, I do tend to drive poor Ellie quite hard. There we go. That's tight enough. Get the HT lead in. Okay, make sure that's nice and tight. Take that off the engine and we'll give her another run and see if we've got any immediate difference. One, two, three, when you start for me. Might need a bit of choke actually, it's still quite cool. That sounds quite good. I just want to try something. Oh, hello bucket. Oh, hello. We've got a considerable air leak somewhere going on. Where is that? Is that the base? Yeah, I think I've got a leak. That'd be another thing that would cause white deposits on your plugs. Yeah, I've definitely got an air leak on the carburetor. Yeah, carburetor to manifold gasket, that's where I'm squirting that. You can hear the engine changing as it starts burning that. That shouldn't be getting in the engine. So that is the point at which this stops being a nice simple service. It's now become a bigger job. And for that, I think we're going to need a part 2 on this one. So next time I will be getting into what's going on with the carburetor, why there's an air leak. I'll have to get the carburetor off. Hopefully I don't have to take the manifold off. I really don't want to, but if it comes to shove, I'll get that off. I've got a replacement manifold to fit anyway. So yeah, that'll be fun. In the next video, thank you for watching. Don't forget to head to the Hubnet store, buy lovely merchandise. We've got pin badges, stickers, t-shirts, hats, mugs, you name it. We've got it as long as we've got the things we've got. Perfect sense. See you in another video. Farewell.